Hey guys, Luke Seymour here. This is the first part of a two-part video tutorial on how to draw the Mutulary Doric Order according to Vignola's treatise. It's meant to be as an aid to Dr. Nathaniel Walker's Classical Language of Architecture class at CUA. But if you're not in this class and you still want to learn how to draw the Doric Order, then stick around, this is for you too. In this first video, we're going to be drawing the Doric Order at quite a large scale so that we're able to construct pretty much all of the moldings using geometry and using compasses and triangles and parallel edges, t-squares, all that stuff. So it'll show you how mathematically and geometrically these orders are constructed. And then in the second video, we're going to draw it at a much smaller scale, kind of like the first assignment that you guys have for this class. And since it's at a smaller scale, we're not really going to be able to construct a lot of these moldings. It's going to have to be freehanded. But the reason I wanted to draw at a large scale first is because I don't want you guys to just kind of be shooting in the dark. I think it's super important to know how the individual elements of the Doric order are constructed, instead of just being like, oh, well, that looks like it's a semicircle there, or that's a quarter circle there. I think it's important to know where exactly your compass point is supposed to be for drawing each of these arcs, and knowing exactly how to construct them. So hopefully this is helpful. Hope you enjoy the video, and without further ado, let's get right into it. Okay, so the first step for drafting Vignola's Doric order is, like most things, to just set a center line. And bear in mind that the construction lines that I use in this drawing are going to be very dark, just so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to start with a center line. I'm going to just put it right down the middle right here. Again, way darker than I would do it otherwise, but for the purpose of this video, it's okay. And then I'm going to put a ground line, which should be dark. Now I'm going to define my diameter, my column diameter. So, got my architect scale. I think I'm going to set this diameter to, well, let's go 4 inches. So, I'm going to go here. I'm going to mark out 2 inches on either side to get to a 4-inch diameter. And then I'm going to draw what, again, would normally be construction lines, but in this case I'm drafting them a little darker, straight up. So this is the diameter of the bottom third of my column. I say the bottom third because the column receives entasis about a third of the way up and gradually decreases in diameter as it goes up towards the top. So the top of the column will be about 5/6 as wide as the bottom of the column. But we're not worried about that right now because we're just drafting the base. So the base for the Doric order, and for a lot of the orders, gets a half a diameter of the column in height. So an easy way to get that is to just go to the bottom where the center line intersects the ground line, take a 45-degree triangle like so, and draw a construction line up like that. And this mark right here gives you half a diameter because it gives you a perfect square right in here, and obviously this distance here is half a diameter. So that gives you half a diameter there, and then we go to that intersection and draw a construction line straight across. So that is the height of the base of the Doric order. The base consists of a torus and a plinth with a bead and a fillet. So the plinth takes half of the entire height of the space. So again, I'm going to have to divide this distance here in half, and the way to do that is to again go to where this line intersects the ground line, take your 45 triangle, draw it up, construction line, and the intersection of these two 45s gives you that halfway point. So then I go down here, draw a construction line across, extending out a little bit further. So if you see here, going by the diameter, the width of the plinth of the base, it's hard to see here, but that is 8/6 diameter. So the way you can construct that geometrically is to divide this distance into 3, which you can do by taking your scale, and you can see here I have, well, can't see it super well, but according to the 3/4 inch scale, I have 1, 2, 3 is slightly longer, so the way you can divide that into 3 is angle the ruler so that the 3 here intersects with this line and the 0 is here. And then you mark out the spots in between, and that gives you 3 parts. Then you can drag these down very faintly. So that separates into 3. Now we need this to extend out another 1/3. So the way to do that is take your compass, set the point at one intersection, and set the length to the other intersection. And then just take this, drag it around gently to get that distance out. On one side I'll do it a little bit more cleanly, on the left side I'll do it cleanly, and on the right side I'll do it showing all the construction lines. So that's how far out the plinth should extend on either side. So draw construction line up this way, and there you have the plinth right here. Now the next thing you do is you divide this into 3 spots. So you divide this into 3. So I'm going to use the same technique I did a little bit earlier. Go 1, 2. And the bottom 2/3 will be given to the torus, which is kind of a semicircular bit. So I'm going to draw a construction line there. And then this upper 1/3 will be divided in half again, which I will do by drawing another 45 right here. So it intersects. Again, this is just showing how easily these orders can be constructed geometrically. And there you go. So again, to sum up what we've gotten so far, the overall height here is half of a diameter. Then you split that in half. The bottom half goes towards the plinth. The upper half goes towards this soon to be drawn torus. Above that a bead, and above that a fillet. And then above that is a conge that runs into the shaft, but we're not quite there yet. So now, to construct the torus, you need to divide this space here in half, which thankfully we've already done when we divided into 1/3. So I should have just drawn that construction line over when I had that done. Okay, and then you take your compass again, set the point in the middle, and then set the compass to the distance on the top and the bottom. Then what I do, I go and mark a spot in here, and then this point becomes my compass point. So I set my compass right there, and I draw this semicircle like so, and that's the torus. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Draw the torus. And then I'm going to darken the outside of the plinth a little bit. Hopefully you guys can see with the shadows that I'm casting. I don't have perfect lighting here, so my apologies. And this line comes across here. This line comes across here. Okay, so that is the plinth right here and the torus right here. Top of this torus you have a bead, which is basically a mini torus, and above that you have a fillet. The treatise says that there should be 2 1/4 parts projection from here and 2 3/4 to the edge here. So this should be a 5-part projection right here. I'm not going to split this up into quarters of a part, so I'm just going to eyeball it, don't tell anyone. So yeah, this is right in the middle here, so it should be slightly over to the left of middle, which is where I'm going to do it. So I'm going to call this that point. I'm going to set a point right in the center there. That's supposed to be the outermost projection of that bead. So the compass point should be right here, and then the bead comes out. Same thing on this side. That's the outermost projection of the bead. And then we'll have a projection about that far right there. And then I'll mirror it on this opposite side right here. And that will be the projection of your fillet. It's F-I-L-L-E-T, not F-I-L-E-T. We're not talking about steaks here. Unfortunately, I could use a good steak right now. And there you go. Again, pretend these circles are perfectly drawn with either circle template or compass. Ignore my freehand near midnight drafting. Okay, and then the last step is to draw the conge. So this is technically the top of the base, but there's this kind of gracious curve that leads into the shaft, so it's not just like a jarring transition. The way you draw that is, again, you take a 45-degree, extend it out from this intersection, then extend the line of the fillet up. And where those 2 construction lines intersect, that's your compass point. So set your compass point here. Draw the conge, like so. Oh my gosh, this compass is terrible. I need a new compass. Same thing on this side. Right here. Then draw the conge. I'm going to darken this line by hand a little bit. And that is the base of the Doric order. Now, I don't have enough space to draw the entire column at this scale, so I'm just going to draw a cut line here. Bring the column up to this level. And you can darken in your line weights a little bit. The typical convention is the outermost lines should have the darkest line weight, and molding lines and stuff like that should have kind of an intermediate or light line weight. Moldings that separate, like major transition points, can be a little bit darker, but in general, detail lines should be light and outline lines should be dark, and any lines in the intermediate spectrum there should be somewhere in between. So this guy would be darkest, it'd be a little lighter here. This guy would be dark, and then darken up here. Okay, and that is the Doric base. The next step is drawing the upper shaft and capital of the Doric column. First, I'm going to draw the upper part of the column, which, like I said earlier, is about 5/6 as wide as the base of the column. So the way you can figure that out is by dividing what we have already done down here, which we've divided this into 3 parts. Divide this last bit over here in half, like so. And at this intersection here, that is the width of the upper portion of the column. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. Now the easiest way would just be to copy this dimension right here, like so. There you have it. So the first thing I will do is take the dimension again of that half diameter and mark it up here. And then draw a construction line. And then I'll continue these construction lines all the way up, which again, remember these construction lines are substantially darker than I normally would do, but for the sake of this video, I'm drawing them darker so you can see them. Okay, so this is marked out as the space for the capital. Well, the most basic first step is, again, to take this distance here and divide it into 3, similarly to what we did at the bottom in the base. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Divide this into 3 parts. I've already done at the bottom. Draw those construction lines across. And if memory serves, these will also be divided into 3 parts as well. And then, if memory serves again, parts of those 3 parts will also be divided into 3 parts. So it's a lot of thirds that we're playing with. I'm going to draw those construction lines a little darker so you can see them. What I'm going to start with actually is the top third, the abacus. So what you're going to do first to start, so you're going to draw a 45-degree angle right here. And then construction line. And that is the projection of the main part of the abacus. Then you're going to divide this into 3 parts again. Actually, you're going to do it for the abacus and the echinus, so I'm just going to do that to both of them really quick. Here, here. Then I'm going to drag this construction line for this top bit apart. And for this one, I'm going to drag the bottom third across. Then finally, you're going to divide this top piece into thirds as well. So again, like I said, a lot of thirds. All right, then you're going to drag that top third of the top third of the top third across. Now, you're going to go to this intersection point right here, draw another 45, and that's the extension of the entire abacus. So I'm going to do the same thing over here, drag this up, drag this down, and then drag this up again. Okay, so where this intersects at the top, I'm going to draw a line down, and then same on this side. And that is the fillet. Beneath that fillet, you have a cyma, which at this scale, I'm not going to be able to construct, so forgive me for freehanding it. You can construct every bit of this, but it's just hard at this scale, so I'm going to freehand it. Same thing over here. Then drag this across, darken the line weight, darken the line weight, darken the line weight. Then I'm going to draw this vertical down, like so, and draw across. And that is your abacus. Now we move on to the echinus, which is kind of this quarter circular piece right here. So again, you can construct it super carefully, which is all great and fine and dandy, but at this scale it's going to be a little tough, so we're going to freehand some of it. I'm again going to draw 45 here. You can see that's again how far that that abacus extends. I'm going to start with the lower third here. Going off of that 45, this intersection point here should be the top of that little bead that we're about to draw. And we again have to divide this into thirds. I'm just going to use the compass to use the measurement I already have up here. And okay, pretend I divided it into thirds geometrically. Once you do it enough, you'll develop an eye for these sorts of things and will be able to divide small spaces for sure into halves and thirds and fourths and however many pieces you need to with pretty good accuracy. Not perfect, pretty good. Okay, and then you set your compass point to this intersection right here where the 45 meets this line dividing the top third from the bottom 2/3. You'll set your compass point at that intersection, which again, my compass doesn't go small enough to draw this accurately. So pretend I constructed this with the compass, even though I'm freehanding it. So you have that half round bead, and then below that, from where that compass point is, you draw a line straight down, and you have this fillet. Then you drag that down as a construction line. Draw 45 at the intersection once again, and this intersection here becomes your compass point. And you draw another conge, like so. If my compass cooperates, wow, I think my freehand is better than that compass drawing right there. Okay, and then drag that down. Rinse and repeat on the opposite side. So 45 right here, compass point here, drag this down as the furthest extent, construct this with the compass, straight down, and then conge. Again, compass isn't working super great. I'll just freehand it. And this is now the lower portion of the abacus. Sorry, the echinus. I keep getting those mixed up for some reason. There's a lot of terms. Have mercy on me. I'm sure you guys will draw this a little more cleanly than I am, since you guys are actually getting graded on it, and I am not. And then the last step for this is to draw a semicircular bit of the abacus. So going to the same compass point, drag it up, set your compass point to the intersection here, like so. Set your compass to the vertical distance here, and then draw that up. If there's a little bit of a gap between the echinus and the edge of the abacus, then you did it right. Same thing on this side. There you go. Now, you only have one little piece left. Which is slightly different. You're not quite dividing into thirds. According to the treatise, this is 1/16 of a diameter. Oh, actually that's perfect because I'm using 4 inches for the diameter. This lines up perfectly. So 1/8 of an inch for me is 1/16. I'm sorry, not of a diameter, of a module, which is half a diameter. So I believe that each of these parts are 1/16. So I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3/16. I'm going to draw it and see how it looks. If it looks right, then it is right. I think it's right. I'm going to draw these construction lines over. You draw 45 at the intersection of that bottom line with the shaft, both sides. Then where this 45 intersects, that'll be your compass point, and you're going to draw another bead. Man, I really need to get a working compass before thesis. I'm just going to finish that. That's your compass point. You draw it out, and that is your molding. Same thing here. And you're not typically going to have to draw things at this scale either. So for all intents and purposes, you're going to really practically have to freehand most of these moldings. But I think it's important to know how to construct them, even if you never really have to do it. And then you go to the halfway point. So I'll draw another X here. And where the X's intersect, draw a line down. Same thing over here. Draw a line down. That's your fillet. And then you have one last conge, which you would construct the same way as this one. 45°. Continue this line straight down. That's your compass point. And you draw your quarter circle. And there you have it. Your conge. And then just to start to show a little bit of emphasis, I'm not going to draw this line perfectly vertical. I'm going to like bring it out to a point like there. So it starts to taper a little bit. Same thing with this side. 45. Vertical. Intersection is the compass point. Draw the arc. And then slightly tapered shaft. And that is the Doric capital. All right, the last step of drawing the Doric order is now to draw the entablature. So let's get to it. The entablature, first of all, is made of 3 parts: the architrave, the frieze, and the cornice. The first step will be to go to this line at the necking of the column and draw a guideline straight up. The worst mistake that I see in people attempting to draw classical architecture today is, instead of having the beam that the column supports sit directly above the shaft of the column, they have it sit out here at the edge of the capital, or even beyond the edge of the capital. Don't ever do that. It looks terrible, and it is an immediate telltale sign of an amateur architect who's trying to do classicism but has no idea what they're doing. Okay, so start with the architrave. The architrave is 1/2 of a diameter tall, so the same height as the capital. So to do that, I'm again going to divide this geometrically. Okay. So take your compass, get that half diameter mark it off on that guideline. That is half diameter, right? Yeah. Okay, so that is the height of your architrave, which is the main beam that does all the work. So for the architrave, we are going first to divide this space here into, you guessed it, 3 parts once again. I'm going to continue this center line up a little bit because that'll be important when we get to the triglyphs. So you're going to again divide this into 3 parts, like so, like we have been all along. Part 1, part 2, part 3. And we're going to drag these guidelines over. And then darken this line. So that's the first face or fascia of the architrave. Then you're going to take this top third, divide that in half, which I'm going to do with the 45-degree technique like we did earlier. Drag this across. There we go. First, you are then going to divide this bottom third into 3 again. All right, so now we have all of these subdivisions here. And I'm going to take this 45 once again, go from the center line where it intersects the top of the column capital and extend that upward. And this is the furthest extent of the taenia, which is this little fillet thing. And this is the top of the architrave right here. And you can drag this along as well. So I'm going to divide this distance from here to here into thirds again. Actually, I think that's more like a quarter. So we're going to divide that into 4. My apologies. So I'm just going to do that with the 45 technique twice. Like so. Okay, nice. Then I'll drag this down. This face right here. And that is the second fascia of the architrave. And then the reason we divided this up is for the goutte. I'm going to draw the goutte after we draw the triglyph and the frieze. So, the frieze is the second portion, and it will take up 3/4 of the diameter of height. So it should be 3 inches right here. Okay, I'll go up 3 inches right here. So that is 3/4 of the diameter. I'll take that, drag it over. I'm just going to set out the cornice too, so you can see kind of where we're going. And that's 3 more inches, another 3/4 of diameter. So the entablature in total is 2 diameters tall. It's 3/4 plus 3/4 is a half, 1.5 plus a half is 2. And the Doric column is 8 diameters tall. So when you're setting out the entire order, it's pretty simple. If you just kind of have a vertical space that you need to have an order in, you don't have to immediately pick a dimension. You can just divide that space in 5 pieces. The top fifth is the entablature, and the bottom 4/5 are the column. And then you kind of go from there, just geometrically. And I'll show you how to do that in the next part. Okay, so this section here will be dedicated to the frieze, and this section here will be dedicated to the cornice. Okay, so this is pretty simple to start. Just draw a line here. And that's the furthest extent of the continuous frieze. The triglyph will extend out a little bit, but not too much. So the triglyph is half a diameter wide, and it's centered on the column here. There's, you know, an ages-long debate on the corner problem, if the triglyph should be all the way to one corner or if it should be centered on the corner, how the spacing works, but most treatises just have the triglyph centered on the column, even in the corners. So again, half a diameter. So half a diameter for me is 2 inches, so you go out 1 inch on each side. And that's the width of the triglyph. Then you'll take that line, continue it down right here, and then continue a construction line down a little bit further. And then same thing on this side. And that will be the underside of the tripod with the goutte. So now what you do is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, you separate the tripod, the triglyph into 12 equal segments. I'm just kind of putting little dots here. It might be a little hard to see, but I'll draw the lines up so you can see shortly. All right, and now you draw construction lines very lightly on the edge, then you skip one, draw another, another, and another, skip the center line, another, 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 skip one, and the last one's here. Now, what I'm going to do is again take that 45, draw it down from the top here. Then I'm going to draw a horizontal line at this intersection point right here, all the way across, like so. Okay, so these are the channels in the triglyphs. So it's called a triglyph, 3, because it has 1, 2, 3 segments. And again, sorry if you can't decipher between construction lines and actual lines. Construction lines are staying dark so you can see them. Now you're going to take the 45, draw a line here, and these are real lines, not construction lines. Here, that's pretty bad, wow. And then going back the opposite direction, here, here, and then at the intersection of those lines, drag it down. And then you have the triglyph mostly finished. Now you just have to draw the goutte, which are underneath the triglyph. So there are 6 goutte, and they're equally spaced. So I'm going to separate this into 6, which I think I kind of already did up here. Yeah. Okay, so that's already in 6. Just kind of drag the line down. Okay, I didn't drag that all the way down far enough. All right. Okay, and that is the furthest extent of the goutte. So they should be slightly angled and evenly spaced. And again, if you do enough digging, there are certainly ways to construct these, whether it be geometrically or using modular system with Vignola's ruler, but again, you don't typically need to do things at this level of detail because this is at a super large scale. Usually it'll be at a smaller scale. Those definitely aren't perfect, but it gets the point across. Well, I'm not going to erase, I'll leave the guidelines. The spacing of the triglyphs is basically, you have a perfect square in between them, so you'll draw 45, and you'll draw straight up. And this will be the edge of the next triglyph, so that'll be 2 more inches over to the edge. I'm not going to draw this triglyph as well because there's no point. And another lesson, do not draw your initial line super dark like I just did there. Even if you think you know that you have it perfect, start light and then darken as you go along. It's always easier to erase light lines than it is to erase dark lines. Okay, so the next step will be to just draw the same sort of goutte over here and the triglyph as well. So for the triglyph, I'm going to go to the midpoint of this projection, which I already have calculated right here. So go to the intersection of this X, draw straight up, draw this guideline over here. So yeah, drag this line over as well. Draw straight up to that guideline, and then connect the line right here. I'm gonna lighten this one for clarity's sake. And that is the triglyph drawn. And then for the goutte, I'm just gonna eyeball it, come in a little bit, like right here, and then try to match the same angle you drew for the other goutte. Bring it down. Bring this line over, and bring this line over. And you have successfully drawn triglyph and goutte. Now for the last part, the cornice. To begin, go to this intersection, as we often do, draw a 45-degree angle, straight out this way. And that's how I like to start. Now, you're going to divide this not into 3 for once, but 4 parts. So, pretty easy way to do that is again with this 45-degree X technique. I'm not going to draw the line all the way down so as to not confuse things. And then one more time. And you can trace these guidelines across, like so. And that is the beginning of the cornice. Now, you're going to separate that bottom quarter into halves, like so. And that bottom half will be directly responding to the triglyph. So at this intersection point, right here, I draw a line straight down. And then you're going to come out a little bit right here, so that this stands out a bit from the frieze. And you're going to do the same thing with triglyphs. Again, I'm sure there's a measurement here. Sorry I'm not showing it. It's such a negligible thing at most scales that it's really not going to matter that much. Oh shoot, actually, that's not quite correct. Because this has to divide once again into, you guessed it, thirds. So the top third of these lines will go away. Thirds. Yeah, so that top third right here will be a fillet. Okay, yeah. This will be a fillet. Yeah, I was wondering why that looked so off. This also doesn't project that far. This guy does. But this guy does not. There we go. Yeah, that looks better. Darken that line, darken this line. And then you've got a quarter round or an ovalo. So I'm gonna drag this line up here. This intersection will be my compass point. At least this is how I draw it. So you've got this quarter round now. So you're gonna take that quarter and divide it into thirds. There we go. Then I'm gonna drag that top point across here. And this is where the mutuals are gonna be. So what you do here is this next quarter is entirely taken up by the mutual. Let's see, did I draw that already? Yeah, I separated that top into thirds. Okay, so, yeah. You're gonna continue the line above the triglyph up to here, like so, like so, and then again. And one more time. Oh wait, yeah, right there. So this is the level of the mutuals. Then you're going to divide this. Well, we already have divided that into thirds. Very helpful. I'm going to drag that top line across. So that's divided into thirds. And then you're going to divide this bottom third in half. So again, with that X technique right here, I already have the first 45 drawn. And then I'm going to drag this construction line across. And I'm going to darken it only on the mutuals because these are projecting. And then in the top third, we're going to divide that somewhere between a third and a half. So I'm just going to say right here. So this is the line above. This is that third and a half. And then I'm going to draw 45 right here, right here, right here, and right there. Draw a vertical like so. And then you're going to have a cyma, which is way too small of a scale for me to construct with the compass. So I'm going to freehand it right in here. And there she blows. So that's what the mutuals look like from the front. Now I have to draw one in profile. So that's where this 45 here will come in handy. I'm going to take that, drag a guideline straight down, and then, okay, cool, I already have that extended out. Okay, let's see here. So first, I am going to draw a line vertically right here. But I'm going to have the same relationship as I do right here on the edge. And then I'm going to draw those construction lines over this way as well. So this is the furthest extent of that front face of the mutual. You're going to drag this construction line over and draw a vertical right here. Then you're going to have what's called a drip molding. So you're going to come in a tad here and then draw a half round like so, and then draw a line straight down right there. Then you have a bunch of other goutte, 6 goutte again, but much smaller. And it's kind of like a whole field of them instead of just one string of them. So let's see here. And this continues all the way over. And then again, this gets divided into 6. The space that we have left. And then, again, I'm gonna just eyeball these guys. These angles aren't perfect. Some people have an adjustable triangle. I need to get an adjustable triangle. But until I have one, I'm going to stick with this. And then the last little piece, the same that we have over the triglyphs, little fillet and cyma. And then you're good. We're drawing very near the finish line now. Now we're in the upper quarter, and we are going to divide that upper quarter again into thirds, as we have been. So let's see. Oh, actually, that's almost perfect. Okay, so that's into thirds. I'm going to draw that top line across. That top line across. This line straight up. Okay. From this line, I'm going to draw another 45, like so. I think that's how it works. I'm not crazy, am I? No. I think that's 4 inches. It's supposed to be 1 diameter total projection. Yeah. Okay, cool. So yeah, the total projection of this should be 1 diameter out, and if you pick this line to drag a 45 from, that'll be 1 diameter. So this is the furthest projection of the cornice, that outermost line. Now we have a cyma here, which again, it's not a large enough scale for me to draft it, so I will just be freehanding it. Just gonna draw a construction line up, and the cyma goes here. Now, the last step. So this top cornice molding. We'll separate into 9. Well, actually, that separates into 4.5 perfectly, which works just as well. So this bottom one is a half, and the top one is a whole. So if I separate into 9, this would be 2 parts, this would be 1 part, and this would be 6 parts. Separating it into 4.5, the top would be 1 part, the bottom would be 1/2, and the center would be 3. So now you have vertical here, and then again, I don't have good enough compass to draft the cyma, so I will freehand it in. And that, as they would say, is that. Thank you guys for watching. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, if you're in that class, feel free to reach out either via email or during my office hours on Tuesday and Thursday. If you're not in the class and you have questions, feel free to ask in the comments. Hopefully catch you guys in part 2. See ya.